analyzing these 80s videos, he from the very beginning, Bob never said, I have proof of my story and I'm going to tell the world. He said at the very beginning, I cannot prove my story. That's not why I'm telling this. George Knapp convinced him to tell people, and he lived through it. And I didn't believe it either until I talked with George.
Okay, so you filmed this test fire, one test fire, and then you get caught.
Actually, it was, I think, the third time, because we went out there the first time. Everybody saw it. Everybody was amazed because we did some radical maneuvers, and everybody had a lot to say about it.
The maneuvers that I've seen the video. It doesn't. I don't think there's something we have now that can do.
No.
In terms of like a human piloted craft. I mean, I don't know, obviously, with the government.
No, it's impossible. Nothing can move like that. And remember, we didn't start filming from the very beginning. We were waiting for something, to happen. The craft took off, and it came flying at us, stopped, turned at a right angle, flew back, and then, after it did some, amazing stuff, to get the camera, and then we started filming. So it doesn't have all of it on there, it just has some.
The way I describe it to my friends, and they said, what is it like? I said, take a laser pointer, and then have a wall, and then move it around the wall. Like, you know how it moves around the wall? It doesn't seem like it has anything to do with inertia or physics, or it's not impeded in any way by the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
You're essentially separated from reality. As crazy as that sounds, with being encased its own gravitational envelope, inertia is not going to affect it. And this is how some of those recent sightings of Commander David Fravor, I'm sure you've heard of the Tic Tac UFO. I mean, he describes exactly the thing operates exactly the way I was describing. That's why he was interested to talk to me. But we saw this. And on the way home, it's like, hey, we got away with it. We should try the next test for today. So this became a thing to do. And I think it was on the third time that we got caught. I mean, we started becoming embarrassed. I think we got embarrassed. It was like the stupidest thing to do. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And
again, you're in insurance.
Yeah, and what was funny was. We went out there, and my friend Gene Hooker was leaning in front of the vehicle, and just for some reason we just started talking shit. Like, I realized that, I don't remember what we were saying, but, we did something about attacking the base or something along those lines, stealing the craft or something like that. And, then about 20 feet in front of us, we see a little green light fall on the ground and roll to us. And unbeknownst to us, now it's pitch black, you can't see the hand in front of your face. There were a bunch of guards standing right out there, and they had a night vision scope, so they were like from here to the wall, looking at us, listening to us. And the guy dropped it, and the scope rolled over to us, and you could see the green screen. We turned the lights on, and all these guys were there. So it was, yeah. So we did incredibly stupid stuff and got caught as we should have.
So when they catch you and bring you in, then what?
Well, I went in for debriefing. The following day, I went to Indian Springs Air Force Base, which was kind of a defunct base that we used to use at nuclear test sites. And this is when they brought out the transcript of the phone call with my wife. And they sat me down and we said, when we meant to keep the secret, we meant you can't tell your friend, right? It's just being sarcastic and friend. And then they got real serious. But this is where they, took the transcript out and were reading me what my wife and, our friends were talking about.
So what happens from there? What do they do? Run up to arrest you?
I don't know why. I'm not sure they knew what to do. But they did let me go that night. And I went home. And this is kind of when the most stressful part started.
Because you realize you're being monitored.
Now I know, not only am I being monitored, but now I know I'm in trouble. And it wasn't a short time after that I contacted, that time, only investigative reporter
Knapp tries to dissect your story, tries to find holes in it, tells it, puts it on, and makes everyone aware of it. And that's it.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens from there on? I mean, do they contact you and say, "Hey, Bob, it's probably a good idea to shut up"? They try to label you as crazy. Was there?
There were a lot of things that happened, you know, between that point. I'm leaving out a lot of stuff to fill in the story. We'd have to go back to Los Alamos and well, I really don't want to talk about that.
The top secret weapons stuff that you were working on.
No, I'm talking about the 115.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know.
What is it about?
I don't want to get myself into more trouble by admitting something, so I just have to dance around the corner.
He was great just during the filming of the movie.
Yeah, the movie's great, by the way.
Thanks,
And it's on Netflix right now. If anybody wants to check it out. And there's people like me who, you know, I've always loved the idea of UFOs. I became extremely weary talking to people who are fanatics because there's so many of them who are full of shit. And not just full of shit, they're childishly delirious. Like the way they talk about things. I mean, there's so many people that are, I'm in contact, they reach me in the night and they explain to me what we're doing to the ocean is wrong. And like, you're like, okay.
This is one of the reasons I didn't want to do the show.
I'm sure.
Well, no, it's no, yeah, well, it's no joke. We've had people literally camp out on our front lawn, and you know, in some ways I can relate to some of these people. You know, maybe some of them did really have some kind of experience or saw something, and all their friends think they're crazy. But hey, now there's this guy I heard on the radio, and at least he knows I'm not full of shit, so I gotta talk to him.
Right.
And so most of the correspondence I get are people trying to get a hold of me, going, "Bob, you gotta listen to me. I'm coming to talk to you. I'm driving from Oklahoma or whatever." But some of them are just fucking batshit crazy, and they're frightening.
There's a lot of schizophrenics that are involved in the conspiracy world. So there's a lot of people that have real issues.
Joe, it would be a disservice to your audience to not say that we have to look at what's going on now and understand. I've heard on your show a bunch of stuff about what's going on now, and to not really understand what's going on now, you can't see Bob's story in the correct light after 30 years. And at some point we should just touch upon that. The biggest being that things like the Tic Tac UFO case that came out, I've heard people, even on the show, say, "Oh, there's a glitch in the radar." That's a data poor perspective. You just don't know yet what's really going on. Commander Fravor, I was able to get the interview with him, to talk with him way before it became public. I got that from him. He saw it. Other pilots saw it. This is a big thing that's going on right now. They had more sightings on the East Coast recently, cubes with spherical orbs. These are not aerodynamic, and these are the people we trust to defend us on 9/11. Commander Fravor protected Los Angeles on 9/11. So we trust them, but they're not trained observers. Radar, individuals see these things, and the big one, just to throw down so we can consider a story a little differently, it's more depth to it. The big one is the United States government has admitted that they have been continuously studying the UFO phenomenon. That program was called ATIP, was called OSAP. That's the mother program. George Knapp got that out. They announced to the New York Times about ATIP, but OSAP, these acronyms, OSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Applications Program. Who cares? That was the mother program. So they've admitted we didn't stop studying UFOs in 1969 with Project Blue Book. We don't think it's crazy. We actually want to reverse engineer the technology. That's why on your other show, you said, "What's this AAV thing?" It's like they're making up another UFO name. Well, hold on. There's a reason. Because in the documents, the DIA documents that George Knapp released, that everybody said was fake till now they know is real, they call them AAVs, which is Advanced Aerospace Vehicles. People are getting the acronyms wrong. So the reason for the terminology change is so that we can mimic what we're reading in the DIA documents. People can look for that now. So they changed the names to get people away from UFO or UAP, even like Hillary Clinton said. on air, right? So
What are you talking about? Hillary Clinton said that.
Hillary Clinton informed the public on Jimmy Kimmel, oh, Jimmy, we don't call them UFOs anymore. We call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Right? So she kind of was getting, the Clintons are very into the UFO topic. Senator Reid, you know, he's done a lot for the subject, the study of it, right? So she informed the public so they could look for the right term. So these terms are important because the DIA, in those documents, they've been calling them AAVs for quite some time now.
And they changed the name to anomalous.
No, that's kind of a misnomer.
No?
So they always mess around with things, but it's actually advanced.
Right, but when they're
aerospace.
describing it in the news, they were calling it anomalous aerospace vehicle.
Totally, and that's cool. They were also saying anomalous aerospace threats, AAT, right? Because they want the sense of a threat.
Right.
So my point is, all of it, if people don't know this now and they think this stuff is fantasy, this part of it, that we're studying it and we take it seriously, we're spending money on it, and that we're getting great data from visual pilots to radar. That's why we know it's aerospace. They dropped it from 80,000 feet. But guess what? That's the top scope of the Spy 1 radar is 80,000 feet. So the radar system they were using, it was coming from above that. So my point is this. If you don't understand that this is happening, you're just behind the curve because you don't have the information because of the stigma.
You're dumb, bro.
I saw you get totally upset with the UFO topic. I met you first when you were totally upset with the UFO topic. It's the people.
When?
When you're doing your, I'm sorry, man. When you're doing your show, you know, the Joe Rogan Questions Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how frustrating it is. Trust me, I have been frustrated to hell. Luckily, my mentor is George Knapp, and he's taught me the pitfalls as I went through it. My whole point in this rant is just that we have to now look at Bob's story, but knowing the facts, not saying it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a glitch. They're wrong. And so if you don't know that, you just don't have the information yet.
Not just that, knowing the facts as we know in 2019, not in 1980.
Absolutely. And so what has he said that has come true? He's totally unimpressed with it. Right? What has he said that's come true? So I was like, Bob, they've announced gravity is a wave. You were right and you're vindicated. And he looks at me and he's like, well, think about it, Jeremy. I had like a 50-50 chance. He was not very impressed, right? So they detected, in a sense, they detected gravity waves.
Who's that?
You might know more. There's two black holes that are colliding, and that's how they were able to detect.
Yeah, somebody built, I don't know which group it was, but that's part of the government.
That's what Google is for.
Yeah.
What is?
But they, built a gigantic gravity field. Pretty much. Detect it.
That there are such things as
Yeah,
gravity.
the first observation of gravitational waves, it says it was in 2016. Okay, the first observation of gravitational waves was made on 14th of September 2015, as it was announced by the LIGO and Virgo collaborators on the 11th of February 2016. Previously, gravitational waves had only been inferred indirectly via their effect on the timing of pulsars in binary star systems. Dum, dum, dum. The waveform connected by
come on.
LIGO LIGO observatories matched the predictions of general relativity for a gravitational wave emanating from the inward I'm trying to get this from the inward spiral and merger of a pair of black holes around 36 and 29 solar masses and the subsequent ring down of the single resulting black hole.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
in the 80s, the predominant theory was gravity is produced by gravitons.
Okay.
You know, theoretical particles. But they're waves, they're not particles. And that's
So the thought is that the way we experience gravity, it's based on mass, which is why the moon, which is roughly 1/4 the size of the Earth, has 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So there's some sort of computation you can make based on mass.
right. And remember, we can observe the effects of gravity, but we have no idea what it is. All we can do is observe it. And we can't make, the only way you can make gravity is just put more mass together. It's just a product of gravity. But if you can make you have a machine that makes gravity, you could pretty much do anything. You can affect time, you can have force fields, all of that stuff that's in science fiction becomes reality if you have a machine that can make gravity, and what we worked on in the desert was a machine that makes gravity.
I love your analogy of dropping off a small nuclear reactor to the Victorian era. I love that analogy, because back then that wasn't possible. That was magic. What you're talking about here is the fact that they just discovered this whole new realm. This is way. We're, as much as we know and as impressed as we are, as we should be, with how much more technologically advanced we are than every other creature on this planet, we're still, in many ways, in the adolescence of technological innovation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If even adolescence.
And when you're talking about this binary star system and zeta reticuli, and who knows how much longer these things have been around than us, who knows what their evolutionary cycle has been, who knows what, I mean, we might be talking about something that's a million years old. It sounds.
Yeah, it could easily be. Now, I'm not in, believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow the stories or,
Even after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it really irks me, like every night I go to sleep, that that it was my own doing essentially that prevented me from continuing in the project. I mean, it's to be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me.
Right.
But by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing. But George Knapp is, he's the guy that has the contacts and tries to thread everything together. And what he recently told me is he found, I don't know if it was either documentation or people that he spoke to, is that the existence of this project, the project that I was on, it's something that they seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
So that's a very specific memo, and this is the first time I'll be very clear with people about it. It's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually was featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with a sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this guy wants to know the world is going crazy right now in the UFO world. I'll tell you straight up right now, I'm in the position to know, and it is a real document, that it is real. So the conversation you read in that conversation was had. I can't attest to every...
You're not being very clear.
Sure.
Please.
No problem. So there was a document that is circulating right now that is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking...
What is this document?
It's called the Wilson Memo, is how you can find it online. Or the Wilson Leak.
There it is, James got it. The Wilson Memorandum. Use of human bones.
No, that's not it. Yeah. So, Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion, oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G. And if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. And we'll see. My history is pretty good with, saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G special projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They put the technology away. They bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things vindicating, besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. That is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document specifically?
It's between a scientist and an admiral that are sitting, and they're having a meeting, and they're talking about the search for the UFO subject, the search to get special access program access to all of these different things, like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, you know, one of the guys that has a couple orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
He's the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch.
No, he's not. He was the guy that owned Skinwalker.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But like it'll just there's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker Ranch soon because there's a new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this insertion here is just that document kind of validates a lot of this idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere, they tuck it away, and then they bring it back out, 10 years later and start working on it. What is the limiting factor? I think Bob should speak on this, but it's the material science.
Yeah, it's really where physics is. So I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any
just give me the word and I'll make it
information
happen.
on that, but I think what
Hello.
George uncovered is
I help
probably
you?
accurate. That
Let me know what you
we
want,
try
and I'll
do
tell the
what we
Pegasus
can,
people to get
and
it
once
ready.
we reach a roadblock,
Whatever you want.
we really
I'll
can't
get him to
figure
bring it
out.
up to the helipad.
It's just friggin' wait, put the thing away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see. All right, now where can we go?
But there's got to be someone in the meeting.
You got-
Right?
Oh yeah,
You've got your scientists like you and Barry, you've got your people that you compartmentalize, different people working on
yeah. There has to be some people that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be on the outside saying, hey, you need to keep the garbage building, don't let anybody in.
I think a lot of that is private industry. I think that's how they keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they split it because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document kind of proves. He just articulated that it is a control company.
What private industry? Some aerospace company, something? I don't know.
Yeah, the guy with the admiral wouldn't name it in the call.
So they still have these things, supposedly.
I would guess. I mean, I don't have any information.
Have you ever asked anyone that has any inkling of any idea of where they got it or how they got it?
No, but something must have been said to me from Barry, but it was just too long ago. I can't quite remember what he said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of the archaeological dig. So it's old. At least one of them is old. I don't know if it was when I worked on it, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig. So that means it's not just one. Yeah, right. That's all of them.
Yeah, that's the reality of that.
That's a pretty cool there. Just a couple of dudes with some brushes looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. They didn't know it.
And when did they find it? They have dinosaurs.
Well, and how could we have not heard about that? What about the guys with the brushes? How could you uncover something like that?
Well,
And
Joe's newspaper at home does. I mean, they said it on that first day.
Oh, you mean the Roswell?
Yeah,
River?
yeah, you told me, yeah.
Yeah, I have a cover. What is this? The document, right? I have to just dig and find it.
Yeah, it's just kind of, so this is really neat at EG&G. This is Admiral Wilson, and there's a lot more coming out. Now, I want to be clear, George didn't put this out. He didn't leak this out to me. This is, I can tell you how I...
This conversation.
So this was an employee of, at the time, Robert Bigelow.
And this is in 2002.
Right. Do you remember when he had that government contract called OSAP the world all knows about now, and he had NIDS and studied the ranch? That $22 million everybody is saying it was for ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The $22 million was for OSAP that was pushed through Congress, 3 congressmen, right, and astronauts. It was pushed through. And that's what that $22 million, by the way, they spend more money on Viagra every year than they do studying UFOs. If it was just this program, which I think is funny.
Make a lot more money from Viagra.
They probably do. Well, you never know how it seems in the population. But anyway, this program, this is what was the mother program. So it got the $22 million. And really, it was to study Skinwalker Ranch. Oddly enough, that $22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch. Because the scientists... they're seeing vehicles coming through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, we went there. I went there.
Right,
Dr.
yeah,
We interviewed a bunch of people that seemed full of shit, but a couple of them. It was very, very interesting.
Totally. And if you look, I spent a lot of time in the area. I'm not talking about those stories, I'm saying there were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. And, you know, whatever. The point is that 22 million was to study that. Then we have ATIP, which is like an auxiliary kind of program of military sites, like Commander Fravers and that sort of thing. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded, and it was personally funded and then government funded. It's just one of those things that kind of shakes you because we got this military guy who can't get access because of the private industry that's holding these non-terrestrial materials that they can't study. So that's the claim right now. Give it some time, let people dig more into this. It's fascinating, man.
So you are essentially you're kicked out. You're out of this program. You can't work with these crafts anymore. And do they give you any threats? Do they tell you what you have to do from here on out?
Yeah, well, I mean, the way it ended was I told George Knapp all this stuff, and we said, well, let's just get it on tape. Should something happen, at least we have a record of it. And I don't remember what the emphasis was, but at some point George wanted to air it, and he said, you make the call on it, and look, if at any point you change your mind, we won't air it. And it came down to the day where George wants to put it on the 5 o'clock news. He said, hey, this is important stuff, people have to know about it. And I thought it was too. I thought it's kind of a crime. I know you got to keep the technology secret, but you can't not tell everybody that this stuff is going on, that we have, actual hardware from another civilization. It's a big fucking deal, probably the biggest one there ever was. And George said, today's the day we got to put it on the news.
The car's been stored. Come back to the office if you want.
Right down to the time to air it, I changed my mind and I said, we're not doing it. And that's what turned into the famous wrestling match between me and George trying to get the tape, but he won because he was a bigger guy.
So you actually physically wrestled?
Well, I think it was more of a pulling match. I don't think we ever hit the ground, but he got the tape, put it in the player, and boom, 5 o'clock news was on, and then I got a call after that, and they said, it was from Dennis. He said, do you have any idea what we're going to do to you now? And he hung up the phone. That was the last communication I had with him.
And what has happened to you since then?
After that, a lot of people I've known either were audited by the IRS, anybody I know that had clearances that worked in secure programs had the clearances pulled. One of them, one of mine that Jeremy knows.
He's going on camera with me soon. He'll tell the story now that he's out of work up there.
He was working up at the Tonopah test range, waiting for his clearance to come through, and they pulled that. It became, it's like if they can't get the person that's involved, they just create a problem for everybody that surrounds them. And so, I mean, the way it turns out, it hurt a lot of people's lives that I was connected to. And that's an effective way of shutting someone up. So
Did you feel that by coming forward and going public, they couldn't just snuff you out?
That's what I was told, and George and everybody, said that. It's public. There's, no one will touch you, and I fell for it. And I
Do you wish you didn't?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes when it's just
sometimes.
overstressed and people are camping on your lawn.
Yeah, but this is going to make things worse doing this.
No, this is going to make things better.
That's what I was trying to tell him.
How is this going to make things better?
Well, because you're getting a real chance to explain yourself in a way that's going to make people who not only work in the government, people that are police officers, and firefighters, and first responders, and doctors, and scientists, they're going to empathize and empathize with what it must be like to be a person like you in your 20s who gets thrust into this world unknowingly.
Get ready to work.
And confronted with one of the most, if not the
license
most
plates for a living.
important discovery in the history of human beings.
Look at that finish.
The big question, are we alone? It's the number one question. There's
Right.
two questions.
Right.
What happens when we die, and are we alone? Those are the two big questions.
Right.
And if we're not alone, and someone knows we're not alone, and these some people who know we're not alone are these bungling sort of...
Even if they weren't, it's a crime if they're not telling the rest of us.
I mean, I don't mean bungling in terms of they're incompetent. I mean, they can't be competent. It seems to me that what you're describing, that no one can be competent with this technology. Like the Victorian era scholars analyzing some sort of a nuclear reactor. There's no way.
Why do you think they're not telling us? Let's just make an assumption that this is true right now. Why do you think that they're not telling us, that our government doesn't tell us? What's your best?
Well, let me put it into what you do. If I'm the president, okay, and I get this information, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? There's something that we don't know. There's something we don't understand. There's something that came from another world. We got it tucked away in the mountains. And I just wanted you guys to know about it. Hey, sleep tight. Hey, American Idol's on tonight. Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah.
Who's going to win America's Got
Talent?
That's not going to happen.
So one is uncertainty, and the other one is what Bob and I have talked about a lot. Absolutely not knowing what to tell people because you don't really understand it yourself.
Right. What do you say? Because you want to run a government, you want to get people to pay their taxes.
So there's something else.
Yeah.
So you have these objects flying in the community, right? And you get something else.
Well, not only that, what can you say? Like, how much do you really know?
I think it's mainly the technology. They just want to use the technology because if there's,
whoever gets this money, dude.
You control you literally become invincible once you master the technology. You cannot penetrate a field like that. So imagine I know it's all science fiction, but science fiction turns into science fact. You have real force fields around aircraft and battleships. You win. You win. You can force your will upon anybody. And like I said, there's so much more to the story. When I was first there, there were Russian scientists at the school. This was early on in the project.
So this was before Operation Paperclip.
I would imagine.
That was...
I don't know what the dates were.
Yeah, when was that? When did that? Was that...
Yeah, I don't know the dates.
So it's roughly 10 years later, Operation Paperclip becomes more information out.
We talk about Russia, not Russia.
Yeah, but I mean, Russian scientists, a lot of them came from Germany. So some Russians get some of them.
I just know at some point there was intense cooperation. I mean, even exchanging some ideas on nuclear weapons, EMP tests and stuff like things we would never have discussed with them. But at the same time, it was in the late 80s. They were involved in expert in the area at Ps4 with us. And no, I knew they were there. Barry would talk about the comics. And the comic. And
that was back when there were comics.
Yeah, they were real comics. At some point, it wasn't our group, but at some point, there was a big discovery made. And this did not happen when I was there. It happened in between my trips to there. And after that, apparently they decided it was just too cool to share with anybody in the Russian war and never allow it back on the base after that. No, like I said, it wasn't my group. So only the other groups really found out something. But in typical American fashion, this is ours, you guys.
Was there any inkling that any other government had something similar?
No, nothing that I know.
See, that was the thing that always freaked me out. Was why, if something was so superior to human beings, it's almost like visiting an ant colony. Like, why would you go to the queen? I don't give a fuck who the queen is. I'm a human. I'm so superior to you ants. I don't care who you have running your hive. I'm just going to study it.
I think it's who got it.
Who got it?
Look at the, rocket technology in Germany. That doesn't make sense to me either. So they were either in the same area, or one had clues to where others were. I mean, I don't know. You have to fill that in there, but you're right. I mean, 9 of them. That's a big dig if it was archaeological.
But one of the more recent sightings and these discussions that have been coming out recently from Air Force pilots and Navy pilots, they've been talking about things happening in the ocean, and that something literally goes into the water, or something maybe below the surface.
You think about that 2004 Tic Tac minutes case. So that's when George Knapp and I broke on the radio twice before the New York Times, so I know this one really well. Commander Fravor and those pilots. There was a disturbance on the surface of the water. Commander Fravor visually saw what looked like similar to a cross, some object. So it's like as if you have some coral under the water and you've got it's breaking over.
Right.
The Tic Tac is doing this crazy maneuver that defies. It's a gravity-propelled system.
They saw it in the sky before they saw it in the water, right?
What you need, boss? Some wheels? I can bring them around.
Walk to 7-Eleven for what?
80,000 feet, dropping 50 feet in less than a second.
This is it, James? What is it?
This is actually on the news today. There was a briefing.
So a lot of people get this confused.
Not this one then either?
No, so that is called the gimbal. So there's 3 videos released by the Pentagon that are all actual. I would really just pay attention to the source video. So you've got the Tic Tac, which is this object that Commander Fravor saw. Another pilot filmed it with a FLIR pod, and it goes. But this one you see is really important to Bob's story. The gimbal craft. It's been recently analyzed. It's FLIR. Not only does it's definitive that it's not conventional anything by its movements, but there's a pocket of cold air around a propulsion source. So this object, by the way, sat stationary for days, if not weeks.
Vanessa, I'm coming with you. Wait a second.
They were saying there's no way this thing, using that kind of energy to go that fast, could just hover.
The amount of time. And by the way, you're seeing a very small part of what happened that day. This object was not alone. And so hopefully that information comes out, and we can, I wish we had video of it. I'm sure we all want to see it. But that's called the gimbal. That was East Coast. Right? 2015.
I'll get there as soon as I can.
2004 was the Tic Tac. The disturbance on the water, Commander Fravor believes there was something under that water. It was causing that disturbance when the Tic Tac was coming around and doing it. With inside the people that are studying this, they're thinking maybe the Tic Tac.
Duval, get my car and drive to the nightclub. I'll be right back.
USO, unidentified submerged object that he visually saw. The whole interesting thing about that is, I would love Bob to describe it.
So we'll wait a second until it goes down.
Of the minutes that was sent out to find out what this stuff is. But and it wasn't just. I got a chance to talk to him recently, and it wasn't just a radar image. I mean, Commander Fravor had eyes on it for over 5 minutes watching this thing, as 4 other pilots did. So this wasn't a radar blip or anything. I mean, these guys were watching this thing. But you know, one of the things I think in the gimbal video, the way the craft that we worked on flies is.
I'll let you get back in the driver's seat in 2 seconds. I want to see if I can do something real quick. You can fly this car actually. You just got to hit the boost right.
I mean, it may set down conventionally.
I'll show you how to do it. Just watch.
It rotates. It does a roll maneuver, puts its belly towards the target, and then moves itself at high speed.
Like a car flying with the wheels forward.
Right. Right. I mean, it may lift up, land on the wheels, but at some point when it wants to leave, it flips up, points the wheels where it wants to go, and takes off. And the gimbal video, you can see the craft do the roll maneuver, and it's really interesting. It behaves exactly like the crafts that I worked on.
So much like we have different shaped aircrafts and fighter jets and cars, they probably have different shapes of these objects that operate under similar principles.
Right, but they all have the same power source.
And we're also dealing with, if you think about the laws of technological progression, you know, you think of Moore's law and you think of how things accelerate, you've got to think that if this civilization is who knows how many years more advanced than we are, if not even years. We're thinking about it in terms of conventional terms, right? The way we look at the world. I mean, they might be just superior in terms of their intellect. They've got to be. Maybe. We don't know.
Well, the only reason I say that is because, look, everyone doesn't necessarily start a steam engine,
right,
and go to an internal combustion engine, and then, you know, like nuclear power, and go up the ladder.
Right.
You know, the binary, if the stuff is true about the origin and the binary star system, and they have heavier elements that we don't have, and this stable element 115 is a naturally occurring material, maybe that's the first thing we started experimenting with. And the version of their steam engine, their first product, was something that operated like this. And actually, when they came to Earth to look around, whatever, they were amazed at the stuff we were doing. These guys burned stuff and squirted out the back to go forward. So, who says they follow any kind of normal progression?
My thought was, if you went back to the 1400s and then you went from 1400 to 1500, you're not going to see that much of a difference technologically. If you go from 2000 to 3000, I assume there's going to be a radical change.
Well, the rate of change is magnificently higher than it used to be.
Right. So if you think about what they had in 1988, and you think about what they probably have in 2019, just logically, it seems like they would advance. The only question is, are they living? Is that a living thing in terms of like a biological thing, or are they some sort of an artificially created creation like we are working on right now? I mean, we're in the middle of working on artificial reality, artificial beings, sentient beings, artificial intelligence. There's silicon-based life forms that are essentially trying to create. Boston Dynamics, or is it Boston Dynamics that the company
You can make
robots? Yeah.
You can make machines out of flesh, right? So a cyborg or cybernetic organism is just that, that's what a lot of people think those like gray things are, that you saw the rays.
Yeah.
Is like they're machines printed from flesh. So what you're saying is like not
well, they could just be synthetic. They don't even need to be machines.
Right. Well, you see that most sex organs. They describe by people that have had interactions with them, assume these people aren't liars or crazy or whatever.
Right.
That they have no sex organs and that they don't seem to have any muscle. That is almost like a frame, and they have enormous heads. I mean, if you looked at Australopithecus or depictions of ancient hominids, and then you go to human beings, one of the things you see is bigger heads and weaker bodies.
Well, you see a clear progression of evolution, too, where something like that I would lean towards synthetic organism. It looks like it was made for a specific task. There's no reproductive organs, so, that almost kind of leaves out any kind of, physical evolution.
Right. Well, that's also our bottleneck, right? Our bottleneck is our biological imperative. The need to breathe, emotions, fear, anxiety, all these different things that exist in order to force us into making sure we're reproducing world systems that aren't necessary once they can figure out a way to make some sort of sentient artificial life, some sort of thing that doesn't have
these craft, all these different kinds have been reported, because it was confusing. I always thought of flying saucer is what I heard Bob Lazar talk about, flying saucer, right? But if you look back in history, people have always reported the weirdest shapes. Like, none of them are alike. There are the saucers, but you got cigar shaped, you got, the top hat shaped, you have orbs. Why? Maybe they're serving different purposes. They're doing different things, like we use different tools. And I want to be clear, the reason I know that memo is real is because I spent a lot of time with Dr. Mitchell. 6 men were walking the moon. Last guy to film before he died, right? That's how I know I don't want any journalists thinking I got it anywhere else. I know because of Dr. Mitchell. And he said the same thing. Maybe these things are performing different tasks.
Seems to be a trend in that direction. And this trend seems to be amplified by our technological progression. There are a lack of need for muscle strength and a lack of need for violence, and moving in a society to try to get away from all the things that we think are abhorrent about human beings and the terrible behaviors that we have. If we one day do give birth to some sort of artificial being, Marshall McLuhan's we are the sex organs of the machine world. That one day we...
Okay.
Yeah, McLuhan's brilliant. I mean, that quote is always one of my favorites. Because, okay, what are we doing when we're constantly technologically innovating? We're constantly looking for faster cars, better computers, bigger screens, faster, more resolution, more pixels, more this, more that, higher bandwidth, 5G, 10G.
Right.
What are we doing? We're moving into this, if you just follow it, objectively stand back, don't attach yourself or your civilization, your culture to it, and look at what it is. We're moving 100% towards technological innovation. If you looked at this species from afar, and if you weren't a part of it, you would say, well, what does this species do? Oh, they make things. They make things better every year. Beehives are the same fucking thing that you see 10 years ago. You go by, you see a beehive, it's amazing, it's cool, but they're the same fucking thing. They figured out how to do it, they make a beehive.
Who's that?
Right. We don't do that. We make better things.
What would you do?
Constantly.
And at some point, I think that technology is going to fuse with us.
Yes.
And we're going to become...
It's already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk
Who's that?
on my podcast.
Who's that talking?
You just carry it in your...
Oh, what's good, bro? Chilling. About to kill this idiot over here real quick. Yeah, been great, man. Things are awesome, man. A lot better than they were. I got a YouTube channel now, though. Yeah, I got you. Send it to me in a message.
Jesus Christ! Oh, oh damn it. Why?
Yo, Ghostface, are you fucking stupid? You must be fucking stupid as fuck. I already subscribed to you, Dawkins. Go and hit mine up. It's mr-stillwinning. Yo, PewDiePie himself came to my channel and helped me with some subs. You don't know who PewDiePie is? #1 on YouTube? Yeah, number one gamer, fucking, he's the dude that started all the gaming shit on YouTube. Yeah, he, someone DM'd him on Twitter. Someone DM'd him my radio show shit. So he checked that out, and then I had a link to the YouTube channel, so he clicked on that, and dude, all of a sudden he was in my comments while I'm going live. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought it was a fake account and shit. Talked to him and shit. It was weird. Who's this Timmy dude calling me? What are you calling me, Timmy? What do you need, bud? YouTube channel is mr-stillwinning. Just like my name, it's MR middle score still winning. Yo, Ghostface, you're soft as baby shit, my nigga. Mad soft. He was killing me when he knew I didn't have no fucking armor, and he knew I wasn't coming at him. He wanted to kill me 1,000 times before that. But as soon as he realized I'm on my shit and I'm going for him, he goes in passive. What a faggot. Oh, Lost Boy, you think you're gonna come up behind me and shit? I'm about to die, bro. You died. Shouldn't have locked me. More like still swimming through your mom's scooter.
Man to walk on the moon. Last guy to film him before he died, right?
To be able to stop it. Like, why is that? Well, maybe it's because we are the electronic caterpillars that give birth to the butterfly. Maybe that's what we're doing.
No, it could very well be.
What our job is to do is to make some sort of a cocoon, and we don't even know we're doing it while we're doing it. Do you think a caterpillar is, well, hey caterpillar, what are you doing? Man, I'm doing my thing, it's my job, I have to make a cocoon, I'm become like a butterfly.
This could be a natural part of evolution.
It could be.
That we're just supposed to do this.
Exactly.
And make the jump to some sort of mechanized, non-biological.
An orangutan that is fishing with a spear.
No.
They've figured out how to fish with spears. There's primatologists.
Wait, without somebody showing them how to fish?
No, they've imitated human beings doing it. And now they do it, but they do it independently. They're not trained orangutans. They're wild orangutans. Look at that. There's a wild orangutan.
Okay, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Well, there's these primatologists. I guess you would call them primatologists. That's the term?
That's a great
biologists. Biologists that believe that monkeys and chimps and some of the great apes are moving into the Stone Age. That they've currently entered the Stone Age. Like, they're not staying what they were 100,000 years ago or 500,000 years ago, but they're actively using tools, and they're experimenting with different ways to use those tools, and then they're making tools out of stone. They're making tools out of sticks, and they're using them. Well, this might just be what happens. This might just be what happens. I mean, why else? Why the fuck would we work so hard? I mean, I was driving to LA this morning. I had a doctor's appointment, so I was on the 405 at 8 in the morning. But Jesus Christ, like, this is so crazy. When you're on the 405 in LA at 8 o'clock in the morning, you see literally 1 million cars. And it's just everywhere you go, there's people. And also, I'm in a Tesla, so I have it on autopilot. So I'm there sitting, I'm listening to a podcast. I barely have my hand on the wheel. I'm not touching shit. This car's driving me along. I'm not even doing anything. I'm just hanging out. It's so much less stress, by the way, to do it that way.
Right.
So it encourages you to innovate. Yeah. It encourages you to embrace this new technology. I got this giant screen showing me the navigation in front of me. Oh, I'll be there 5 minutes early. Excellent. and I'm listening to a podcast wirelessly. It's Bluetooth streaming from my phone, and I pulled that podcast, which came out today out of the fucking sky, and I'm listening to it, and I'm all comfortable in my nice little car, just driving on my way to the doctor's office.
This is irresistible stuff.
Yeah, it's different than your Walkman.
Yeah,
you know, back in the day.
It is irresistible.
It's frighteningly irresistible.
But is it frightening? I mean, if you were a monkey, right? If you were an Australopithecus, would you go, man, I don't want to fucking be a person, live in a house? That's bullshit. I like just swinging around on trees. I like running from jaguars. This is life. Guys, life is running from crocodiles. It's not living in the fucking suburban community.
There's probably some that are like that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think when it comes, we're going to embrace it. We're going to embrace it the same way you embrace cell phones, the same way you embrace television. There's going to be a few holdouts. I don't even have an email address, man. There's a few and far between. Good luck with that, fuckface. Go move to the woods, Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah, I was just going to throw dits.
Oh, man. Ted Kaczynski was right. This is something that I think about sometimes when I get really high. That Ted Kaczynski was a part of the Harvard LSD studies. This has been proven. Ted Kaczynski, they cooked his fucking brain when he was at Harvard. And then when he went over to Berkeley and became a professor, his goal was to make enough money so that he could implement this program and live in the woods and then write his manifesto and start killing people that were involved in propagating technology.
He was expunged from the Harvard logs, by the way. This is something my friend just called me about. So there's like this private library, and they used to print people's names whenever they were part of a university. He was one of a handful of people that were expunged from it. I want to jump back to the one thing, Joe. I want to be very careful with that word conspiracy. What I was saying to you was, we terraform our Earth, right? We terraform, we change the environment, we do all this innovation. What is stopping us from thinking that that's not being done? I'm not saying it is. I'm saying what's stopping us from thinking that that's being done on a much bigger level, on a cosmic level.
You mean like aliens coming down doing it?
No, I'm telling you that there is something here. There's a fact. You know, there's something. There are craft. They're here. They're not ours. They're here. So the question is, what is that about? And I'm just looking at what we do with what you're describing as technology.
Well, it's much more likely that the same way we observe chimps and we observe that they are now in the Stone Age, that they're observing us. And that they're recognizing that there is a pattern, that there's steps that happen. I mean, Carl Sagan talked about the different levels of civilization. You know, that we don't get past certain levels, we're never going to reach this.
Right. We're in type 1 civilization. We're going to stay at type 0.
But we're in this warring, polluting, pillaging,
we're awesome
civilization. It's a we're awesome a lot.
But in that way, we're not.
Of course, Ghostface killed himself with that try-hard shit. How many weeks did you practice killing yourself, you weirdo?
Even when you're driving a car, you're stomping on the gas like, woo! You didn't invent the fucking engine. You didn't invent tires. There's all these things that were involved in the creation of this thing that is really outside of your grasp of understanding. But yet you have the ability to use it, like a person with a gun. I'm just gonna bang, bang, bang people. You didn't invent a gun. So like you've without the intellect to craft and engineer and.
Yo, you know everything's double right now. All the regular missions are double. Yeah, all the
everyone into a very small area where no one grows anything other than weed. And this is what LA is. LA is 20 million people with hard surfaces, as many hard surfaces as you can. Boy, if you got an acre backyard in LA, holy shit, look at all that green. This is amazing. Well, no, that's the fucking earth coming through this weird sort of creation that we've put on top of the earth. But the goal is that, like New York City, there's none of it, right? You've got Central Park, and they just got human shit. Human stacked up. No one's growing anything. And then constant work. Everyone's up early. Go, go, go. Innovate, progress, make that money so you can buy more things. And every year, hey Apple, where's this fucking new phone? As if your phone isn't good enough. Like your phone's taking pictures and videos, and people are calling you, and you got applications that tell you which way the wind's blowing. That's not good enough.
A blink of an eye, it's all gone though. That, you know, like 10,000 years and the Hoover Dam goes or whatever. You know, Mount Rushmore disintegrates. So it's amazing because we have created that, and everything's trying to spring up through that. We keep it maintenance down, but we're a blink, man. Something hits.
But we don't think that way. You know, you think in terms of your own life, right? You think in terms of what you want and what you need right now. You know, we are in many ways this combination of this weird, primitive, ape-like thing with...
Joe, we're not fucking monkeys. Stop it.
Manipulate our world and our environment. That makes us wholly unique. On top of that, with existential angst and fear. So what do you do with that? With fucking water it down with antidepressants. Give these fucking people some shit that keeps them moving. Well, they're worried about the future.
I'm dead serious when I say that shit, because Joe Rogan is constantly trying to fucking say that shit, and he's constantly trying to apply that shit. We're not fucking monkeys, Joe. Grow the fuck up. Joe Rogan and his fucking we're monkeys bullshit. We fucking evolved one day. Who is Joe Rogan? Alright, I'm done, dude. Do you live in America? Man, Joe Rogan is the fucking white dude with the UFC and the podcast and the fucking Fear Factor. You know who Joe Rogan is. Come on. Nah. You're not understanding what I'm saying. This dude is getting... He has the #1 podcast in the world, all right? #1 in the world, all right? And he's supposed to be putting people on to truth and good information. Instead, he's double backing and going in the other direction by trying to make everybody think that there's no God and we're all just monkeys that evolved and everything is just crazy. Look at the aliens are crazy. This is crazy. That's crazy. We're just monkeys. Stop it.
Reality is
he's fucking retarded.
A goddamn convertible spaceship spinning 1,000 miles an hour, hurling through infinity. There's no meaning to this thing. Just keep making shit. Keep making stuff.
Nah, actually, this dude is against Trump. This dude is a Democrat. He's on the Hillary bus. It ain't about talking crazy. Yo, Trump ain't just talking crazy. Trump knows what the fuck he's saying. And he's been informed and briefed by motherfuckers that know what's up. This dude, on the other hand, has no fucking deal with what's really going on in the world or any truth whatsoever. Pretty much, dude just wants to make money. So, the only way he can make good money... Fuck yeah, he did that shit. Surprisingly. Whoever sent the fucking mugger is retarded. I just mugged your mugger, bro. Your mugger had $40 on him. And his boy had 18 bucks.
And
what's up, little kid?
Day, they're going to be able to hit that switch, and this life will be born out of innovation.
Yes, I'm streaming. I'm always streaming. We're always live. It's Beer Gang in this bitch.
More than likely, it's probably going to be what we're seeing. That
New York.
Are that you're observing.
I'm not observing them, but yeah.
Are you implying that they're us?
I don't think they are us, but I think they are what happens when things keep going. It's not us, just like we're not monkeys, right? I'm not a chimp.
Well, that's cool. They're from here. your idea.
No, that this is what happens all over the universe.
Yes, right, yeah, totally.
That this is what happens. Look, here's the thing. You know, I went to see Brian Cox's, he has this amazing live show with Robin Ince where they have these LED screens, these huge screens with high resolution depictions of the cosmos. And one of the most mind-blowing things was he has this large-scale image of the universe, and it shows all the individual galaxies of the universe, and it just keeps moving through all these galaxies in 3 dimensions, and it's fucking incredible. But what's stunning is the relative uniformity of it, even at you know, I mean, you're obviously looking at...
Give you a strain?
An incredibly small depiction of something that's immensely large, like a galaxy of hundreds of billions of stars.
Strain.
This little dot, but this little dot that's flying through space, surrounded by other little darts with very similarly spaced distances.
Yeah, homogeneous all through, yeah.
So, like, if we see uniformity in that form, in terms of like the distance between galaxies, so many galaxies it's so similar. They might vary slightly, and that slightly might be hundreds of millions of light years, right? But there's so much uniformity. Why would we not assume that uniformity exists pretty much everywhere, and that all these things that you're seeing that are so similar, you do see binary star systems, you do see single star systems like star, but there's also some speculation that that our solar system one time was a binary star system. Right? I mean, that's one of the speculations about that object that they find outside the Kuiper Belt, that the thing is 10 times larger than Earth. They think it might have been at one point in time a star. But this uniformity that you see, why wouldn't we think that has its same implications biologically? That there's some sort of a biological uniformity, and that this happens given the right sets of circumstances.
It could be.
You should tell them some of the stuff that you've read that you don't know is true. I mean, if the stuff was true about the propulsion stuff, I mean, anyway,
Well, what have you read? What
you saw too. I mean, you know.
What are you talking about? Spill the beans, Bob.
I gotta poke the bear here.
Get some more liquor in you.
Well, I mean, the only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There was talk of weapon systems, that there were different projects. Project Galileo, Project Sidekick was supposed to be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Now, I don't think, we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time, and how that can be used, as a, not as a, well, it was part of a weapon program.
How are you informed in this?
These, again, were just the small briefings that I read. But, again, I don't really like to talk about those because I don't have any information on them, and it was just, small briefings.
But you told Commander Fravor that what he saw might have been a time dilation in that.
Well, it could be, because gravity affects time, space-time. I'm sure you've heard of that. And, what Commander Fravor saw as he was in the F-18 approaching it, he said he described it as a ping pong ball in a cup and shaking it back and forth. It was moving that fast. Now, obviously, if there's anything inside there, it's going to be battered to hell. But, my point was that, well, one of two things. Either there's a gravitational envelope in there which negates any inertia effects, or you are seeing through a gravity distortion field. So, just like you're looking at a hot highway and you see, an optical distortion going through there. Well, the same thing happens in gravity, and the craft may not actually be moving like that. It may just look like it, because you can only see it through the field. So it may be making much more gentle moves. I'm not saying that's it, but it has to be one of the two.
And the thing shows up 60 miles away. They noticed it on radar 60 seconds after it left Commander Fravor, but it was at his cap point, which is the next point he was destined to go to, 60 miles away. And in 60 seconds on radar, the same object ends up there.
So it's going a mile a second?
No, I think the radar just picked it up in 60 seconds.
Yeah, it could have been there instantly, but
yeah, we don't know.
The cycle time.
Nobody knows. That's the whole thing.
So it cycles, like radar cycles? Like
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't sweep, but
right,
I mean,
like
it scans. It's
like
a planar
antenna.
array, so it just scans around at random places.
That's the spy one does the really cool. Yeah,
right.
It doesn't do the whole loop anymore.
Right. The point is though that the craft moved to his next location before he knew where his next location was going to be.
Jeez.
And that's well documented. So that's a pretty shocking piece of information.
What's fascinating to me too is that you were discussing this, the way this reactor worked, and that these things were not really connected.
No, nothing is connected. There's no wiring at all.
That freaks me the fuck out.
Charge your iPhone, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, wireless.
Yeah, I mean that's a simple electromagnetic. Yeah, I know again, but that's just simple electromagnetic induction.
Right, but I mean Tesla, the scientist, had this concept of
right. That's what
that's
what I'm talking about.
I mean, for other people that don't know what we're saying, that he wanted to send wireless electricity through the sky, and Westinghouse was like, "Get the fuck out of here with that!" Like when anybody could just pull electricity out of the sky.
Can't meter it.
Yeah, they couldn't. They couldn't.
We had this talk in the car right over, trying to chill him out. You know, we're talking about Tesla and how he couldn't be metered and how it all went down. So it's funny you bring it up.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows what would have happened in terms of innovation had he been allowed to go forward with that?
Well, we probably wouldn't have computers.
You think?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive.
Why
I mean,
not?
forget about microelectronics. Well, this is dumping huge amounts of electromagnetic energy in the air, and yeah, we'd be able to wirelessly turn on our lights, but there'd be no radio communication. The interference would be something would be overwhelming. It would induce electric currents in anything with a small wire on it. So integrated circuits, transistors would be disintegrated before they were even, tested for operation. So it would
Maybe
destroy.
it would have fucked us up.
Yeah, it would have stopped us dead. It'd be great. You could turn lighters on and heaters from all over the place with no wires, but it would stop modern electronics.
And if we became dependent on it, it would almost be like our dependence on fossil fuels. Although it's destructive, it's very difficult for us to get off the nipple.
It would have changed the course of how we developed, which is so interesting when you talk about it. A civilization of the star system didn't even start with fossil fuels. They had 115 naturally on their planet, and they're like, cool, anti-gravity's pretty awesome.
Well, the fact that they
I think it's important that actually happened.
Yeah.
It might have been stopped in its tracks for a reason.
Whoa. And I think it's incredibly difficult for us to imagine technological progression under another timeline other than the one that we've experienced.
Yeah, that's difficult.
If we imagine what this alien race must have been like, and I mean, God, just to be able to see something, obviously we've seen it in different life forms, right? Like we see the life of certain beetles in comparison to the life of certain fish. Very, very different existence, very different life cycles.
Octopus.
Yeah, octopus. I mean, we see all these different variables in terms of biological entities on Earth, but we don't see it in terms of technological innovation, as we're the only one that's intelligent that can innovate. And we have intelligent creatures, but they're in the ocean. The only other thing that are like us are dolphins and orcas and whales, and they don't have the ability to manipulate their environment. And subsequently, because they don't have the ability to manipulate their environment, we put them in fish tanks. And we're like, get in the tank, do some tricks.
Right.
The only thing he saw in the craft, if we were considering Bob's story, the only thing that he saw in the craft that he related to, that looked like a human could make, was this honeycomb hatch. And I always love that because you're like obsessed with this thing that you could recognize.
I only focus on that because it was the one thing that I understood how it worked.
What was it?
And it was the access to the level below, and it was if you take you have a 6-pack of beer and you take out the cardboard dividers, set it on the table, you can put a lot of pressure on the top, but if you push it from the sides, it collapses flat. So it was something like that in a honeycomb shape that was essentially some sort of sheet metal, and you could walk on that in the upper layer, but if you took the corner, stuck your finger in, and pushed, it collapsed and made an entryway. So I thought that was a really unique, I'd never seen that before, and it was the only thing in the craft that made absolute sense to me. I said, we can make that, and all that is a hatchway.
Was there any discussion about the materials that were used to make the craft?
I'm sure there was, but that was a metallurgy division. It had nothing to do with us.
So you never got
not even the slightest briefing. I don't even know if it was metal or it was ceramic. It's I think there's a fine line between the two.
Now, one of the things that's happened to you that has allowed people to discredit you was there's obviously been some sort of an effort to erase your past.
Yeah.
Some sort of an effort to erase your education history, your employment history at Los Alamos. In fact, the only way your employment history was proven at Los Alamos is someone got a list, a directory of the employees from the past and read into it, and you were on that list. So it proved that you worked there even though people were trying to deny it, and they were trying to use that as a way to discredit you. You never did work at Los Alamos. You weren't really a scientist. What was that like to experience? I mean, of course, we're talking about the 1980s, the 1990s, when you could get away with something.
Yeah, obviously there were a lot less records on computers at that time. It was still file cabinets and folders. But yeah, that was frightening. That was one of the first things.
What happened?
Yeah,
there was no record of you being.
Yeah, there was no record of that. There was no record.
His mom tells me about that. Like, it was frightening for her. He's got a real family. You know, he's a real person. It was frightening for her.
But if the Los Alamos thing really surprised me, and that they were so adamant that no, this guy never worked here. Don't be ridiculous. And George went back and forth, you know,
I got the letters on the wall. Yeah,
months. I mean, it was ridiculous. But fortunately, somebody came up with a 1982 phone book directory. I mean, and also, originally I told you, you know, when I worked there, I was on the front page of the paper. So they were still able to archive, you know, bring that back from the archives. And, you know, Bob Lazar, a physicist working here at Los Alamos, so there was at least something there. But somehow George came up with the phone directory.
And then then Bob took George with cameras into Los Alamos.
Oh, yeah. So we flew out there, and I said, look, come on in. I'll show you where I worked. We'll go in. We'll meet people. And George went with me, and, you know, filmed inside there.
Navigate the place.
Oh, yeah, and, you know, met people, and, you know, and
Los Alamos was also the place where they had the machine that was able to read the size of your digits.
No, that was that was S4.
That was S4. And explain that.
So now this was back in the 80s.
And this is back in the 80s where when you discuss this, people are like, this doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it?
It was a way, you know, this is before fingerprint scanners and, you know, and any high resolution scanner at that time. So what it was a device that had a little picture of a hand on a glass plate with pins in it, so you could jam your hand in there. And there was a bright light above it and a sensor underneath. And when you put your hand in there, the light would turn on, and it would measure the bones in your finger because the light shone through your bones. And apparently, the length of the bones in your fingers are extremely unique and easy to measure. And they used that. When you put your hands on there, the light would turn on and your badge would pop out.
There's it right there.
Oh, there it is. That's it. And I tried to describe this to people, and they said, that is the most ridiculous thing we've ever heard. And I said, hey, my badge came out of that thing. I put my hand on it, badge popped out, and that's how I could open the doors and get into S4. And, you know.
And everybody discredited that. They said it was bullshit, it was science fiction. And Jeremy, you found this.
I found it through a good friend of mine named Tyler Rogaway, and he had some good sources inside of Area 52 where they also used these for the stealth program right around that time. So now I've got all these people that worked within who, you know, said only if you're in certain programs would we use this technology. It's kind of shit, actually. They didn't keep it for very long, the beginning of biometrics. So I was able to reveal it in my film. I kept my mouth shut until I showed it to Bob. You know, in the movie, the first time he saw it was how you see it in the documentary. That's his genuine reaction. I'm getting goosebumps.
That was a great idea, the way you did it.
Thank you, man, because you know what, guess what? I'm actually trying to see if he's telling the truth. That's how I started. You know, that's how I started. So it was really cool to see that, and that you get to see it, his actual reaction.
Has that been verified by other people?
Yeah, so to me it has, personally. I get emails every day, and people are telling me where these are used and how they're used, and send me photos. I got a lot of photos of identity mats now.
Well, how they were used, right? They're not
how they were used, but
yeah,
I don't. The most recent one was way more recent than I thought in another country. But yeah, that technology was used. So what's so funny is that this technology, even in the Area 52 where they'd use them for Tonopah, one of the guys who will go on camera with me, he will do an interview with me. He was a technician for one of these, and he hated them because they were really bad. They always broke down and he was a technician for them. Now, he won't tell me where. If he worked at Area 52, so it's probably Tonopah. It's very separated, even on base, but yeah.
So, there was that.
Yeah.
There is your education record. That was also, like, what happened with that?
Well, that disappeared also. You know, that I've never gone... I've never gone anywhere for education. I never attended any classes at Caltech. I never attended anything at MIT.
You did attend classes in those places?
I did attend classes in those places.
Do you know anybody that you went to school with?
Yes, I do.
And have they verified that they went to school with you?
Well, I gave Jeremy some names, but the reason I don't say these names publicly is because every single time I mention a name, somebody gets in trouble.
They don't want to be.
Of course. Yeah, of course. But what is that experience like, seeing your birth certificate erased, seeing your employment
Well, it's
history?
frightening. It's absolutely frightening.
It's also the fuel that the debunkers use, the so-called air quote skeptics. I don't like the term skeptics. I'm going to say this publicly because I really want to say this privately. I think it's a sloppy, lazy way to look at things, to just be a skeptic.
Look,
I want people to be objective. And I think there's a lot of things you should be skeptical of. I think you should look at things from a hardline science perspective. You should be objective. But the idea of skeptics, the problem with that is you're always looking for things to be bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous, because I think some things aren't bullshit.
It's confirmation bias on the other end. You're just deciding to take a square thing and put it in a round hole no matter what.
And I find a lot of them to be lazy.
Yeah.
A lot of them to be lazy thinkers.
Sure.
Because they're always putting it into that box instead of instead of just separating their ego. They're playing a game. And the game is called bullshit.
You're playing a game,
I'm going to
Joe.
call bullshit, and I'm going to line up all these reasons why it's bullshit, and I'm going to ignore anything that might be contrary to that definition.
Yeah, that does.
Every time I'm thinking I'm going to catch him in something, all along this process, I found Dr. Krangle. He came forward and said, I was in security briefings with Bob Lazar, the physicist at Los Alamos. He went on the record with me. Now, the other people I talked with, why won't they go on the record with me? Because they're still working there. So that's the difference, right? What can the public
Hey,
have?
listen to Donna, not me, when I told you that already.
Obviously, people have seen what's happened to you.
Mike Thigpen, after 30 years.
Yeah, really, if you look at all the information on, concerning my accounts, that's verifiable, it can't possibly be a bullshit story anymore. It's really way past that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was
Mike Thigpen is. I mean, how could I possibly know?
So Mike Thigpen was the guy that did the security clearances.
This is fucking scary.
To go to the base. One of the guys that was.
This is the guy that you worked with.
He said he did.
Right.
And
so this dude that I'm friends with, I've been friends with since PS3 days, right? He gets on GTA, he sees me, he goes, "Holy shit, mr-stillwinning, what's up?" I'm like, "Who's that?" He's like, "It's Carolina." I'm like, "Okay," and he's like, "I didn't talk to you since PS3, what's going on? You're still on GTA, obviously." I'm like, "Yeah." He's low rank, so he probably hasn't been on for a while, and he's just getting shit up. Look, it took that long for that name to pop up, and look, the names, or the face still ain't popping up, or the whatever the picture is, the avatar. He's online. It wouldn't show me his name. It kicked me out of the session, and then deleted him out of my fucking inventory on the game and everything. I couldn't find him. I couldn't jump back into that session. I couldn't nothing. I'm like, nah, dude. I'm live streaming this shit, so I just ran it back, paused it on a part that I'm fucking flying through the sky looking at the map, paused it, put it in high def so I can read this shit. and his name was right there. Carolina's fucking da-da-da-da-da, whatever it was. I needed to know what it was to type it in, because it wasn't even showing me on my friends list. I type it in, and look, it still won't show me the fucking picture. It took a half an hour to pull it up. What the fuck are they trying to do? What are they afraid of? Weirdos.
So what, they keep blocking you guys from each other or something?
They do that with everybody. They just separate us. So we're constantly
Well, what did
online
he
playing, but we
say?
don't play together.
Or what did he say, though?
What do you mean? What did he say?
Is it happening on his end, too?
I haven't talked to him yet. I'm still out of the lobby, and I just now finally...
And George Knapp, George didn't believe him. George put him through 4 polygraph tests. He tried to see, man, this is a big risk. It sounds interesting, but let's see if he's telling the truth. One of the things was, Bob said there's a guy named Mike Thigpen, he did security for the base, and that's a weird name. It's a very specific. For 30 years, George found this guy in this weird department that he didn't even know it was Mike Thigpen. The guy wouldn't talk to me, ghosted him, totally ghosted him for 30 years. Facebook and Google image match through his children. I
ghosted him
after 30 years, and I talked to him 3 times on the phone. He lives on the East Coast. He almost went on camera with me, confirmed that he did security clearances for the base in 1989, confirmed he remembers Bob Lazar, and what you don't know is there's a handwritten note that a friend of yours has from Mike.
What?
I know, I'm going to give it to you later, but that is real, that is actual. So
a handwritten note that says what?
Like...
This is new to me.
So when
they do security clearances, they go through all your friends and family.
And they go to your friends and family,
yeah.
So this is to Bob, and I had people come to me for a friend of mine that's serving, and they're doing a security clearance for him, and even though I'm like the UFO guy, they did, the FBI come and visit my house and make sure that they talk about my friend, and they left a little card. And when my wife told them to get away, because she didn't know who they were, they left a little card. It's super cute now. Back then it was a handwritten note, and his friend has it for him that you haven't seen in
oh my god
2 decades. So if you're listening,
how come you're telling me this now?
I don't know why I'm telling
What is this card?
It's just a little handwritten note with Mike Thigpen's signature.
A card, like a postcard.
Like a piece of paper that he left on the door saying when Bob gets back or whatever it says on it. So it's just another little funny thing. I found the guy, he does the security clearances, he admitted to me he did it, and he admitted to me he was dodging George Knapp because when George said his name on the news, he dropped his fork into his steak or into his potatoes or whatever, and he's looking at his wife. He was in trouble. His name's never supposed to be out there like it's just a security clearance guy. But you don't want national attention associated with anything Bob has to say. But anyway, this unique name Bob said for 30 years, and the guy ghosted George Knapp. George could prove he existed. He actually talked to me, man. He talked to me 3 times. He almost went on camera with me. It's just crazy. What happens after 30 years? You just get more info.
Well, that's one of the reasons why when you and me and Jeremy and George Knapp had that conversation on the phone,
yeah,
I said, I think what we can do with this podcast is important. I really do. I think it's important for people to hear this from you in a very clear, just very concise way. And if you examine all the information that you've said today, if you look at all the things that the detractors have said, if you look at all of the new recent evidence that's coming out, and all these really high-level people in the military and the government that are discussing this, it gives you far more credibility than you would have had in the 1980s when this came out.
Fuck yes, you can't ignore his story just because you don't like it anymore.
That's why I thought it was important that you come out and refresh the world's memory and let people know. And like I said, I don't want to say I'm a fan of yours, but I guess I'm a fan of yours. As a human being, I'm a fan of yours. But I've been following you for decades. I've been following the story for decades. I mean,
no kidding.
I have VHS tapes.
Bob, like a lot of the world has.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, anybody that has any sort of a vested interest or just a fascination with UFOs has followed your story, because there's no one else. There's no one else that comes forward. There's some guy who said, I worked underground with the aliens, they shot my hand off. Like, there's a bunch of like wacky dudes. They're underground, there's bases, they're shooting lasers through the Earth's crust and they move them at light speed. There's a lot of those guys. They seem schizophrenic, they seem crazy. They might
that dude was really a fucking liar.
People that are designed to muddy the waters, which for sure has
He'll shit on anybody to try to make a point.
It's amazing. By doing this, what you're doing, you're providing an opportunity for Bob to tell his
just
story.
Just to talk and
believe it or
make
not,
no sense.
he can tell his story.
And shit on someone.
More people will come forward now that are involved with these projects. They'll come forward to you, to me, they're coming forward. And so what you've done here is provide that opportunity if they need it. And it's amazing. I just want to say, Bob,
just don't come forward to me.
No, don't come forward to Bob. Why were you freaking nauseous at the beginning of this, like so upset? Why did you have a migraine? Because that started off so hard. My God, I was sitting here like, did this?
Well, why are you asking him why? It's obvious. Anxiety. The guy's gone through 30 fucking years of being persecuted. They've erased his birth certificate.
I just want to hear him. I want to hear him say. I want them to hear him.
Why did I have to say that?
You don't.
Just said it.
Get it.
I step out.
Okay. Settle down. Yeah, I get it. It was hard for you to get him here, you know, and I appreciate it.
It was hard for us.
Yeah. You did a lot more than me.
What really annoys me are the people that think, you know, you guys just came up with the story to make a bunch of money or get a bunch of, you know, attention. And
that's a good point. So please explain that.
First of all, I don't get any money out of this at all, and I didn't even let you guys buy plane tickets for me to come out here or anything.
Wow.
I mean, anytime, like when Jeremy previewed, I guess, the movie up in Michigan. I mean, it brought in like a couple $1,000. I made sure that $2,000 went to science programs at the local high schools there.
It's dirty money. He doesn't want to touch it.
I don't take any money from this stuff. And as far as attention, I hate fucking attention. I don't like being on shows. I just want to kind of hide in the corner and do my own thing. So I got enough hugs when I was a kid. Okay, I don't need any attention. So, no, if you think somehow we came up with this thing, then you got to tell me why we did it.
Well, you've done a great job of making sure you have your bases covered in that regard. That you haven't profited off of this, and like you said, you have donated whatever money that came your way to science programs.
You ready to eat?
It doesn't make any sense any other way. I mean, what I've gotten out of here is what I thought I was going to get out of here when I watched the documentary. That what you're saying makes sense. It doesn't make sense that it's bullshit.
That happened exactly like I said it did.
I believe you. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I can't think of anything other than really don't come and try to visit me.
Well, I know that you have paid a huge personal cost to get this information out, and I mean, maybe you didn't understand what that cost would have been when you first initially came forward with the story, but over the past 30 years, it's been immense. It's been great, and I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for all these people that would not have gotten this information and would not have really had this story any other way.
No, thanks, Jim.
Thank you. And thank you, Jeremy. And one more time, the documentary is available on Netflix right now.
Yeah, it's called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers.
All right. That's it, folks. Good night.
Bob and that dude were the only reason I was listening to that. Joe Rogan's a fucking hack.
You thought about giving me some shares, boss?
What are you talking about?
No. still can't find his name in the friends on GTA. They fucking deleted him. Unreal. And he's like not joining the party, so he's not getting the invites. They're blocking the invites. Find out. Yeah. Send him a message too. Man, this is fucking awkward, dude. I'm gonna find out what the reason is. I'll bet you any money it's a fucking. I could tell you already probably what the reason is. I'm not that stupid.
You do know that I've got 2 degrees, both in.
Finally, just let me join because I fucking used the thing in a certain way. It made it so I can join this fucking shit. I went to the PlayStation instead of GTA. That's fucking crazy. Oh, and it's telling me the fucking lobby is full when I'm trying to join. Huh. You want to get
You're looking very sharp, boss. Boss. Hello. Have a good day. Just give me the word and I'll make it happen. I'm here for you, boss. 100%. We gonna make some deals?
Those are better than the usual ones because they're ruffles. And I just bought a little bag of them the other day and I thought they were pretty good, so I knew what you were in for.
What's cooking? Let me know. Did I mention that I have an MBA?
Gotta get him sick or something?
Oh yeah, listen to this. I gotta get off fucking live. Hold on.